these are 10 that I say do's and don'ts. They're fairly basic, but until you see them written down like this, all in one spot, you don't think about, oh yeah, like that's a really good thing to think about. So like not waiting to need a network until you build one. Don't wait until you need one to have a network or to build one. And I think, again, going to graduate students is a little bit different than undergrads. You have a network in place. And so thinking of it that way in a web, I can tell you in all sincerity, every position that I've ever had professionally has been come through networking. And it's not because I'm schmoozy and greasy and, like car salesman. It's because I've been relationship building. So that's, like I said, I don't like to network. I don't like it. I like to meet people and have genuine conversations with people. And so however you feel comfortable in doing that, and there's one thing on here that I'm going to recommend wholeheartedly, which is volunteer. So if you guys through the Orgel or ComEl program do a service program with, say, Spokane alums, and maybe you're doing something as a cool event, go. Because I can tell you there's nothing easier than networking with someone when you're painting or cleaning up a street or cleaning a park. Like I've done it all the time, and all of a sudden you're talking to a recruiter or a CEO and they're like, hey, so what are you doing? What are you looking for? And it's a really easy way to break down barriers because you're in jeans and t-shirts. It's not this. Oh, hi, nice to meet you. So think of things that are creative. So that's one, the number 5, volunteer. I wholeheartedly recommend it. So I think sometimes we think networking has to be at 5 o'clock, you're in a suit and tie or, in a skirt and you're shaking hands and you have a business card. That isn't necessarily the case. It can be at pretty much anywhere when you're meeting people. So I think that word networking has sometimes a negative connotation to it that you have to think outside the box. Don't overlook the obvious. So parents, friends, neighbors, classmates, professors. Again, being in a graduate level program, a lot of your own peers are going to have a network that you're not even thinking of a lot of the time. So I think we sometimes think, I want to network with a CEO or a president or the senior recruiter of a company. Network with one another. Peer networking is really powerful stuff because as you go through your program and you are completing a program and you all are going to land in different areas and your peers are going to be advocates for you internally. So let's say Caitlin moves on and does something phenomenal and all of a sudden you guys are connected on LinkedIn and you hear of a position that's a great fit for you or someone else in the program, you're going to advocate. You're going to say, hey, I know someone here, or we have some great students who are great grads from the ComEl or Orgel program that would be a good fit for this. I'm going to send an email out or send it out to Connie and she can send it out to the list. So don't forget one another. I'm always surprised at how quickly even our students, undergraduates, say, well, yeah, my friend got this really cool internship at this place, but I'm not going to ask them about where they got it from because it's just not, no. And that's what networking is all about. Gathering information. So go to one another, especially if you're about to walk. Are you? Yes, are you both walking in May? Yes. Well, congratulations. First, that's exciting. So if you're about, don't be shy in that. I also recommend to connect with faculty in a very sincere way before leaving campus. And I mean that if you had one faculty who you connect with, have a couple classes with, thank them sincerely and stay in touch with them over the course of the first 3 to 6 months. I respond pretty quickly when I hear from an alum that I work with. So if there's somebody that comes to mind immediately, have coffee with them before you walk. Thank them sincerely and let them know how you are in your job hunt if you've landed, because that's, again, it's relationship building. It's an investment. It's not just nice to meet you. What can I do for you? Make sure networking relationships are mutually beneficial. This one's really important. Networking goes both ways. So when you meet with a professional, or I'm trying to think of, whether it's that peer-to-peer or you're at an event, and you meet a professional who's really interesting to you and you know their field or their industry, let's say you read a news article and it sounds interesting or it's relevant back to what they're doing, send it to them. Hey, this is based off of the conversation we had a couple weeks ago, and I thought that this might be interesting to you, regarding X, Y, and Z. If you had a great conversation with them, it's a good follow-up. It shows that you're invested in learning what they're doing too, and you're contributing back versus take. Become an active alum. I can't stress this one enough. When you guys finally do walk, I know that one's very scary, but we welcome our graduate level alums to become involved with all of our programs, whether we have, I think it's 32 centers all across the country. And so no matter where you go, you can get connected to Gonzaga. which is another powerful way to meet fellow Zags. And so whether it's Spokane and you're staying here, you're going to Seattle or Portland, all you have to do is sign up for chapters. It's free, which I love even more. You can get all the emails, and so Zags Online is how you go to register. So if you know you're relocating, if you know you're going to go down to the Bay Area, you're going to go somewhere else, connect with the chapter and start going to game watches, start going to service projects, go to a soccer game or whatever they're doing, and just start meeting people. And you're going to find that is the low-hanging fruit of landing, especially in a new city. Is anyone looking at going to a new city?
Seattle.
Yeah. Then that's a mammoth chapter. It's a beast. Are we looking? Okay. Backyard then. So you have accessibility beyond belief because you're in the same area code, right? In comparison to Seattle, where you're not that far away, but we're in the same neighborhood as where our alums are living. So you can capitalize on the proximity to a lot of really good alums who are right in this circle. So I think that's either way. So connect with our chapters. And then once you guys get landed and you feel comfortable, consider becoming a mentor for our program. It's that reciprocal movement back. When you feel ready to coach and mentor even an undergrad, saying, I'm ready to sign up for the program. I talked about volunteering, joint industry associations. So it's okay. I was a PR major, so mine would have been a PRSA would have been my professional association. That's another low-hanging fruit of meeting people and introducing yourself in that affiliated local industry chapter, or industry association. So depending on if it's HR or communications or what have you, there's typically one for, I don't want to say one for everyone because that sounds really silly, but there's tons of affiliated associations, and they have lots of job boards and networking tools for graduates or folks who are looking at landing. Before attending any networking event, doing research. So for example, we have an event next week that I'm going to pitch to all of you to join us, called Young Presidents Organization, YPO. Have we heard about this?
Yeah.
Okay.
About networking, you're doing something about it. So
yeah, I have information right here. So the YPO event, this is our first year doing it, and I mean, I can say it's awesome because we're doing it, but it's 11 regional presidents and CEOs who are going to do roundtable discussions with the students who are involved. And the space is limited, but it's going to be an amazing opportunity to actually sit and talk to people who are vested in giving professional advice to students, both graduate and undergraduate. So the yellow sheet is how to prepare, and then the little white sheet is kind of the nitty gritty. You RSVP on Zag Tracks, and then you pick the ticket up from our office. We have maybe 10 spaces, 15 spaces left. So the space is becoming limited. I'd recommend it wholeheartedly. They're gonna do introductions, and then from there they're gonna do roundtable discussions, kind of like this, where each president is gonna sit at a table, and it's gonna be themed by industry. And then we're gonna just kind of recommend for people to move. But if you meet someone that you really wanna just sit and talk to, you don't have to move. We're not forcing anyone to switch places or switch tables. So especially for someone who's looking at landing in Spokane, a good majority of the presidents and CEOs are based in Spokane. Very good way. Now here's the great part about this the program that we're setting up here is there is some traditional shaking hands and networking, but there's also this roundtable discussion. So if you want to just sit back and hear what other people are asking and then maybe interject one question when you get comfortable, it's a good model versus an only standing shaking hands event. Do you see where I'm going with that? So it might allow you to practice some networking, in person, one-on-one, but then it'll also allow you just to sit back and have a conversation around a table. So it's a good blend of an event. We try to do that a lot of the times with our events with students and networking to kind of change up the model and not just make it this, okay? So if you haven't RSVP'd yet, I would really, really recommend it. And then research it. We have the names of all the executives who are coming, and that's a really good example. Look at who they are. See what industries they represent. We have their bios and all that kind of good stuff, and just kind of do some research. So when you sit down at the table, you have a little bit better understanding. That kind of goes across the board for any networking event or any professional development event you might be going to, is spend half an hour researching. You're gonna feel more confident when you go into the room. If you know kind of the composition of who will be there, you're gonna feel like you can probably I don't want to say work the room because I don't even like that, but.
The information, is it in the ZAG track?
Yeah, okay. So you can.
Who's attending the?
I think the list is on ZAG Tracks as an announcement, but when you pick up, you have to get a ticket from our office, right. And so we have that available.
Okay, so when we pick up the ticket, that's when you.
Okay. Yep. And then going off of that, so when you do commit yourself to doing a networking event, number 8 is not to bail. And there's a million other things that we can do, grocery shopping and laundry and dry cleaning and things that are, because you're not going to get an immediate return on your investment of time. If we look at networking as an investment of like a relationship building versus something that you're going to get immediately, it's really, really easy to come up with something else to do. So don't bail. Find someone who doesn't like to network or someone who's breaking into networking, have them commit, just like an exercise buddy. Find a networking buddy. Find someone who, you know, you guys can hold each other accountable to go, and that way you can kind of be each other's wing people and kind of break into it. But don't let another person bail. These are opportunities that we designed for Gonzaga, the Gonzaga community, and we want people to take advantage of them, especially when they're on campus. And what I always say to students when we have an event like this is the only way that you can succeed is by not showing up, either physically or mentally. You know, if you just show up and wait for something amazing to happen, well, it probably won't. You know, it'll just probably, you know, not going to come to fruition. So don't bail. Follow up quickly. So the YPO, for example, or I work a lot on our Seattle and Portland treks. That's a really good example. We have about 300 students who participate in the Seattle trek. And I'll tell you, those alumni are getting a lot of emails from a lot of students. So, you know, if you want to make sure that you're in that kind of that immediate follow-up, you don't want to wait 1 to 2, even I would say any more than that, because you're going to kind of blend. The YPO event will have about 80 students. So it's really important to stand out, have a memorable thank you card. That's the second thing, you know, don't forget to thank you, but follow up quickly and memorably. So what I always do, my tip is when I'm at a networking event, I always have a clicky pen on me, so kind of like what Caitlin has. I take their business card and I flip over their business card and I make a note about what we talked about. So then if I have their business card, what they wore, what we talked about, what their hobbies are, something, whatever the conversation was. That way when you thank them, you can cite something that's personal and specific versus, thanks so much for meeting me. It was awesome. Yeah, you see where I'm going with that? So that's a little trick that I always do is I use my business cards. I use business cards as my notepad when I collect a business card. Do we all have business cards? Did you guys get those last time? Yeah.
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 We talked about it last time. Yeah.
So if we don't have them, I would recommend getting them $100 for $5. And that helps you to feel more confident. A lot of these events, networking events, students have the misinformation of, I'm going to bring my resume and everyone's going to take it and that's how I'm going to get started. It's a business card. It's your calling card. So you want to make sure you have a complete piece of information about who you are, so you can leave that with an alum or an employer or anyone else. So that would be my other recommendation, is make sure you have a business card, but then also a pen on your. And that sounds like so simple, but I find that people come out of these events, whether it's a trek or the YPO event, and it's a stack this big, and then they come back to me like, I don't remember anyone. I don't remember what we talked about. I know someone had a great internship, but I have no idea who it was. And it's like, nothing I can do for you. So flip over the cards, take 3 seconds and jot a note. And when you finally go through, it'll help you so much more when you're making follow-up. Hey, how is that? Good?
Yeah.
By the way, I love all your colors. It's like just...
Oh, thank you.
It's just, you know, bright and fun and cheerful.
It should be with this weather out here.
Caitlin.
Yes.
That is a really big compliment. That speaks Caitlin. That's nice.
Happy, bubbly.
I have a story for you. Not now because I'm really excited about this. But
Oh, wow, okay.
about that.
So let me, I'm gonna have to go over here now.
Last night, after class. You were too happy.
Yeah. Too
Hypo?
excited and hyped up, I think was the exact word.
Okay, so we all have LinkedIn, right?
Yep.
We all love using it every single day, right? Okay.
I have no idea how to use it.
Okay, great. That's awesome for me.
Question for
Please.
you. So with the alumni chapters on your guys' the Career Center website or something, you have a list of all the.
It's actually the Alumni Association, so it's zagsonline.org. Yeah. And then it's the left hand, and it'll say chapters. And there's, I think, 30 something chapters right now. So. You see it?
Chapters. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. And so, and to join the chapter program is free.
Okay.
So it's a good way to kind of get introduced with alumni in the area. So my biggest example when I talk about LinkedIn in comparison to the other major social media giant, which is obviously Facebook, is Facebook is like honey. When you join Facebook, it's really easy to populate people. Everyone gets excited. Oh my God, you're not on Facebook, way! LinkedIn is like molasses. It takes a while to pour. It can be like molasses in January, that good old saying. So I want you to think, I have students all the time who join LinkedIn and they get really, really pumped up about it. And then I see them like 3 months later, I'm like, so how's that going for you? How's your profile? I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing anything else with it. So I can go on and on about the number of recruiters who are on LinkedIn, the percentage of use. It's like 89% of recruiters use LinkedIn. So for me, that's enough if any of us are looking for opportunities or placement or jobs, is to utilize this system. How can get tricky. I passed out this guy, How to Network Professionally Online. I think I passed it out. Did I pass it out? Yeah. So one side is how to network professionally. The other one is how to build your profile. I would recommend for you guys to walk through as much of this as you can. You're gonna get stuck. That's the thing about LinkedIn. It's not as, I think, as easy as Facebook in either adding friends or adding contacts, because they're called connections in LinkedIn. So even that alone is kind of confusing. You're gonna see numbers next to people's names. You're gonna see a first and a second, and you're like, I have no idea what this means. It's your degree of connection. So when you immediately connect, so say if Caitlin and I connect, we're gonna have a first degree of connection, which means we can communicate back and forth openly without any strings attached. But if we weren't connected and there was a person literally, Scott, I'm gonna use you. Scott's trying to connect with me, we would be a second degree. Because Caitlin and I are connected, Caitlin and Scott are connected, but we're not connected immediately. So you would be my second degree. Now, here's the neat thing about LinkedIn. They have features called Get Introduced, where Caitlin could introduce me to Scott on my behalf. Most people don't know about the Get Introduced function. It's really, really underutilized. It's a really good tool. And what you'll find is when you're surfing around and using LinkedIn, you'll see it like on the right-hand column, and it'll say Get Introduced. Right near, let's see how fast I can find one. Probably won't be able to find people really quickly, but let's just see if I can do this really quick with Brian. So this is somebody, like, I'm connected, so you'll see here on Brian's LinkedIn profile, we're a second degree connection. So I have one person who's away from him and I. And so you'll see that there's connect. If I feel like, oh, I did go to school with Brian, I can connect with him directly. And when you go through that, they'll ask you for his email address. So this is the one that I'm talking about, get introduced through a connection. And when you actually do that, and I can show you guys, when you click on that, it'll say, who do you want to ask for the connection? So it'll recommend, and so I'm going to pick Joe, and then from there, it'll have you. This is the email that I'm actually going to be emailing to Joe. This is my connection, and I'm going to make a request for introduction, and then the email to Joe. Hi Joe, I see you're connected to Brian. He has a really interesting profile. I'm really interested in his background or his experience level. Do you mind doing an introduction for me on my behalf? I send that request, and then Joe is able to make the request if he feels comfortable directly to Brian. So this is something really underutilized. It's a great tool. Once you develop your profile to a certain point and you're trying to connect with either professionals or alumni, I am happy to do introduction requests. Sometimes I don't feel like the person that they're asking for introduction, I have that good of a professional relationship with, so I deny an introduction, but I might pass on an email address or I might connect them to someone else. So I'll say right now, I'll give you guys all my cards. You're happy to connect with me and go through my contact list, because that's what LinkedIn's for. But that's what introduction is. That's one tool that I think is really, really underutilized. The other one that I think is really underutilized is going to be the group function. So with the way that LinkedIn is set up, because it's a professional networking site in comparison to, say, Facebook, where you have a little bit more flexibility in making friends and connections, they try to safeguard and do some quality control. And so you might get frustrated because you're like, I can't connect with people. I can't grow my network the way that I want to. Well, groups is a really easy way to do that. So when you join a group, and so just because I am self-promoting, feel free to join our group, Gonzaga University Career Center in GAMP. The other is the Alumni Association. I think last count there's almost 3,000 alumni in that group. We have ours is growing all the time for the Career Center in GAMP. We post positions and opportunities, events in those groups. What happens when you join a group, you have access to communicate with the other folks in that group, okay? So it allows for you to access that pool of people. What I also recommend for people, for folks when you're trying to navigate LinkedIn and kind of get started, and you maybe find a profile of an alum or professional that you're really interested in, one thing you can do is scroll to the bottom of their page, and I'll use myself as an example. So if you just looked at my profile, and I guess I can walk you guys through, improve your profile. No, that's a joke. So you'll see, when you look at anyone's profile, you're gonna see a couple different things here. You're gonna see what industry they work in, what their current role is, how many recommendations they have, how many connections they have. So you're gonna be able to see there's my little, how involved they are in the profile or how involved they are in the system. You're gonna be able to see a summary. When you guys are working on your summary and your profile, think of LinkedIn as a search engine. That's exactly what it is. So the more you make your profile rich and, I guess there's no other, rich and adjective heavy, just like your resume, it's gonna get you a higher result. So that's something you really wanna be looking at. When you look at your experience function, you wanna be just as, I see people who just put their title. Don't be afraid to fill it in as if your resume, and when you get started in LinkedIn, it will ask you, do you want us to upload your resume? And you're gonna say, yes, please, because it's gonna make this part really, really simple. So what will happen from here is you're gonna you can scroll all the way down and look at people's different connections and how they're connected and all their recommendations. And then the thing that I would really recommend is if we're not connected and we don't share a group, what you can do, did I just break it? No, it's doing an automatic configuration. Awesome. Okay, well, so what I would recommend is to scroll to the bottom of the page and see all the different groups that someone is in. So there might be a professional affiliation. It kind of goes back to that sheet. There might be a professional affiliation LinkedIn group that you're not even aware of, that you can join and then connect to people who are like-minded, like what you're thinking of. So that's one way that I kind of go through, and I vet people that I find really interesting. So whether it's a recruiter at a firm, whether it's an alum that I see has a really interesting career path that I'm trying to gain access to maybe their circle, that's how I typically will do it, is I'll join a group that they have a shared interest in. So especially like recruiters are really good at hiding their information because they don't want to get bombarded a lot of times from candidates, but I want to make their job easier. So how do I convince them to connect with me is exactly that way. So little things like I use InMail to make letters of introduction. That's all within LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, that was a good joke on me. So LinkedIn is a great tool. Caitlin,
Yes.
my card is somewhere over here.
Fantastic.
Like I said, if you are on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
take it.
I'm gonna definitely look
It.
at it.
Please go look at it.
Yeah,
Now what I will say, as you're walking out, make sure that your profile is at 100% complete, because like I said, LinkedIn is a search engine. So if you're not at 100%, you're not going to come up in the top search results.
Okay.
So,
That's good to know.
okay. So you're welcome. Oh, well, have a great boot camp. Woohoo! So like I said, the 100% profile completeness is really critical when you're working on LinkedIn. There's a couple of things that could prevent you from doing that. One of them is recommendations. And so you can see on my profile there, I had about 10 recommendations. that were from different positions. That can come from colleagues, that can come from professors, even peers. So if you have a peer within a program that you worked on a project with, and they can talk to maybe your organizational ability or your problem solving ability, and no one else is giving you a recommendation there, don't be afraid. Again, that peer-to-peer networking, don't be afraid to ask for a peer. When you do get a recommendation, so if you get a mutual recommendation, LinkedIn will say, hey, you want to recommend them back. So don't be afraid, don't fear that you're going to get all these recommendations and then they're not getting anything back. It's that, again, it's that mutual networking that they're going to say, hey, would you like to recommend them back? Typically you're going to say, yeah, I just got this great pat in the back, I'd be happy to write them one. So that's a really easy thing, but that's one where when I look at people's profiles on LinkedIn, that's one of the first things that I'll see is they have no recommendations. And LinkedIn is a search engine. So riddle your profile with keywords that will pull in a search and put them genuinely all over your profile. I mean, you don't want to make it so heavy that it seems to be fake, but you want to make sure that if you have technical skills, if you have computer abilities, if you have certain skills that you really want to make sure are coming forward, put those in your profile, put them strong in your profile so you're not doing this and hoping that people figure it out. Another thing that I love in LinkedIn is actually, it's called an application. Oh, I don't know who has to log into this guy. Great. So there's one where you can actually go in and do application. So it's like kind of like an app feature on LinkedIn where you can do upload PowerPoints. So let's say I have a lot of students who are in marketing and they do, are you Orgel or Com? Orgel. So let's say you do a huge research presentation, or you do something where it's something that's really similar to something you'd like to do post-graduation, like a senior your thesis. If you have to do like a big, what's your capstone? Is it a thesis? Research project. So if your research project is parallel to a field, industry, or discipline that you want to go into, you can actually upload that document and it can live like a living, breathing piece. Bingo. So I have students write, pull up marketing plans. I have students pull up PowerPoints. This is like such a joke. So I have folks pull up, and if it's a representation of the work that you're capable of doing, the writing, your research, and again, if it's parallel to what you're interested in, and a recruiter finds that, or an alum, it's really great. It speaks a lot to you. Because what will happen is, people will, after a networking event or a social or anything else, people will look you up on LinkedIn. They're going to Google you. What I recommend is beat them to the punch and do it first. So when you get home from the YPO event, or you get home from a chapter event or what have you, take out your business cards and ask to get, connect with someone, and you have their business card, you have their email. It was really great meeting you tonight at the YPO event, or it was great meeting you at this social, or it was great meeting you at this Game Watch or this service project. I'd look forward to talking to you more in the future. Okay, because you have a comment box when you connect with people, so you can put in anything you want. I really enjoyed our discussion about X, Y, and Z, but I tell students all the time, I have a stack of business cards in my office of recruiters that I've met over the academic year who were not on LinkedIn when I met them. And I put a note when I met them, and I just check, because that's how I expand my network. Same thing for you. If they're not on LinkedIn, make a note and go back. Go back in 3 months.
So you were saying if it's not 100% complete, then what?
It doesn't come up. It doesn't come up as high as it can in a search function. So I mean, I'm right now. Mine's at 95%, but I think it's the number of connections that I have coupled with the number of recommendations that I have pushes me higher. So that will help you. I mean, if you're like in the 60% range, that's something where you're going to want to bump up. And this guy here, how to build your LinkedIn profile, that'll help you make it 100%. Okay. So, I mean, I don't know why, to be honest, I don't know why LinkedIn's saying I'm at 95%. It's kind of irritating, actually. So, now that I'm done talking about LinkedIn. The one other thing, let me just show you one other little thing that I love. About LinkedIn. which is just such a geeky thing for me to even say. I love LinkedIn, but I do.
So all the information that we provide on the LinkedIn website, is it the same thing that can be seen by all my contacts, or I can moderate that?
That's a good question. It would be, you can't, so just like say on Facebook, when you can discern that photo that you're posting, does it go to everyone? Is it public? Your LinkedIn profile, the information that you provide is going to be open to a certain point. Yeah. So there are account settings. So like how much is viewable in a search engine? So if I Google your name, how much is viewable in that first profile, or how much is viewable to someone who's not connected to you? But like LinkedIn says, oh yeah, you can post your phone number and your personal email. Like I don't even personally do that because I don't want that information out there. So you're gonna have to make the call of how much or how little you wanna be putting out there, because you can't discern by audience. Does that make sense? Okay. So one thing, there's two little things. When you're looking at LinkedIn at the top bar here, you're gonna see people, and then you're gonna see like a little, the advanced. So when you're doing this, most people, what they'll do is they'll just type in a name and they're searching for someone. This is a much more powerful way to get a,
Where did you go there?
just go to advanced up at the right, all the way up there, yeah. So you can go keyword, you can go by postal code lookup within a 20-mile radius, go Gonzaga. You can put Gonzaga there, you can go keyword company, and then you can also take a look at certain industries, you can look at languages, company size, all that kind of good stuff. So there's lots of different ways to utilize a search engine. Now here's the other little thing that most people don't see in LinkedIn, that people right here is a drop-down menu, okay? And this is the other thing that I really, really enjoy, is we can do the same advanced search. I'm actually just gonna go to companies because it's just easier. We can do the same advanced search, but for companies. Okay, so how does this help you, or what does this mean for you is you're going to the YPO event on next Wednesday, you can search all the companies that are being represented by the CEOs and see what kind of news they have, or if they have positions that are open, or pretty much any kind of that piece, Bob. Now let me just kind of take that. Let's just pretend. So I'm following, I think, like 40 different companies on LinkedIn here. Oh my gosh, this is just, so I'm just gonna pick one. So what happens is the news, if I'll pick Amazon. Okay, so what you'll see is I'm following Amazon, and you can do that by just doing a search on any company and hitting the following button. And which will mean when you go to your home page on your profile, your home LinkedIn page, if Amazon's doing stuff, you're gonna start seeing it. Which is, so if there's 10, 15, 45 companies you're following, you can figuratively follow it here. Now what I really enjoy is you can go through here and see who's in my network, who's my first degree network, who do I have, low-hanging fruit. So let's say you're job searching and you're going all over the place and you see something great at Amazon. Who do you have? Who's in your network? Okay, it helps you feel, again, it goes back to that confidence. And this is how you can kind of start building bridges between maybe an open requisition, an open post, an open opportunity to something that could be really solidified. So it'll show you who. I have 738 connections in my network that are to Amazon. There are 32 college alums, so people from GU. And it'll show you how it breaks down. So 6 of the people are first degree. This is how it kind of breaks apart here. The other thing that I love is what LinkedIn does is they take all 17,000 Amazon employees who are on LinkedIn, and they take all the data and just make it into a really awesome chart. So it shows you how many of their people are in R&D versus general versus sales and marketing. And it breaks it directly off of all of the profiles. So it helps you have a better idea when you're looking at a job or you're talking to an alum. I think sometimes we have unrealistic expectations of what's the company breakdown look like? You know, like what's the composition, what's the layout? This is a good way to make you feel a little bit more kind of, I guess, like, again, goes back to that confidence. That you have a little bit of arsenal in your pocket. How many years experience? It goes to educational degree. It also looks at the university attended. It's really funny if you look at like Nike, it's all University of Oregon. I just said that. It'll also show you like the annual company growth. And then the other thing that I love is, so let's say you find something that you love, and then it'll show you people who looked at Amazon also looked at these. It'll show you the most common skill sets of Amazon employees. Okay, so again, it's not going to give you like a magic key, but it'll help you feel more comfortable or more confident when you are talking to an alum and you are networking with someone or you're following up. So maybe you meet an alum from Amazon at a networking event, you do a little research, and then you follow up and saying, hey, I saw on LinkedIn that the Amazon growth is projected higher than most of the competitors. I think that's really, really interesting. Or a lot of the skill sets of Amazon, are needing Amazon Web Services or whatever, because that's extracting literally off of their profile. So it helps to have a little bit more, I think I kind of call it like ammunition. It makes you feel like you have a little bit more of the inside track. So that's a skill, or that's a little thing in LinkedIn that I can guarantee you most people don't use.
So if we follow the company websites, will my connections know that I'm following this company? Okay.
Yeah. So I kind of joke about it. People ask me all the time, like, so what's kind of like the recommendation of like when you start following, if you are in a current position, to kind of space it out over a while, because if you're connected to your boss, let's say, and they don't know that you're looking for a new employment or new opportunity, and you start joining all these groups and following all these companies, it can kind of be like, hey, what's going on? So space it out, because it does show up that you got connected to all these different people or joined 19 different groups. So it does come up in your profile. So all of these different updates here, these are all, so all these different things that people are doing kind of show up for me. So just be cognizant of that, I guess, if that makes sense. So if you are connected to your boss or a whole bunch of your coworkers and they start seeing you joining a whole bunch of groups, some might not even notice. If they're not actively in LinkedIn, then it doesn't really matter. But if they are, that's just something to be aware of. So that's a really good question. Now, what happens when you connect with people and you have your profile and it's robust and you're, complete and you're doing all this great, 694 connections. How did that happen? Holy Moses. The one thing that I recommend when you're connecting with people and you're, say, at a networking event or you're following up from a networking event and you're connecting with them on LinkedIn, informational interviewing. It is money. It's great. I can't talk enough about it. That's how to do it. That's why to do it. That's what the questions to ask. Informational interviewing is essentially fact-finding with a professional. Having coffee and asking them, tell me about what you do. The one thing that I've heard the most about LinkedIn is taking it from online to real person as soon as you can. So turning that relationship that's online and digital based into a face-to-face, even a phone call, is better than an email correspondence. So the more that can happen, and those are the kind of like the model to think of, is informational interview. So it kind of goes back to what model you're the most comfortable with. If it's the big networking event and working a big room, if it's doing technology like this, if it's requesting an informational interview and a coffee, there's lots of different tools out there and there's lots of different personalities when it comes to networking. But I think if you think of it as more relationship building, it becomes more comfortable versus, yeah. So if you're doing it with the I want to learn from you versus I want you to find me a job, I think it comes off. Typically the job seeker, the networker, feels more comfortable, and the one who's being networked with feels more appreciated. And it's a better platform for a mutually beneficial relationship. Questions? I mean, is there a part of LinkedIn that I can show you guys more of, or now that I have it up?
Okay, within like you were looking at the company things and like, so what are where did you go to like find all those statistics and stuff?
Oh, sure. So if you
So like, okay, just for example, does Gonzaga have that kind of thing?
Yeah, well, I don't know who manages it, so let's see. So your company page, let's just see company page for Gonzaga. So Gonzaga has, so yeah, you can follow Gonzaga. There is a page. So right here, it's on the right-hand margin. It says, check out insightful statistics about Gonzaga University employees. So you can click on it. I would just be curious now. Yeah, not a lot of research and development at Gonzaga. So, but yeah, it just kind of goes, it's a good show of who else, obviously some other higher educational institutions and how many times people change their names. I do think this one's kind of interesting, new titles, I didn't talk about that. There's new title section and there's also departures. So that's also, I think that's sometimes a really interesting one of who is at GU and who's left, and that kind of gets muddled when you're looking at Gonzaga because you're going to see students who've graduated and they listed their stuff incorrectly. But so I recommend following companies. The other again, LinkedIn's just a gem. It's just a little toolbox where, and you want to almost make a date with LinkedIn at least once a week because there's so much stuff that you can learn. But again, at the top margin here, there's a whole section on jobs. And LinkedIn's gonna say, hey, Belinda, I see your experience. These are jobs you might be interested in. You can actually apply through LinkedIn now. They've added so many beta levels to LinkedIn that from when I started doing my presentations for LinkedIn like 2 years ago to now, it's incredible how much they've done and changed. So the thing is, it doesn't change that much in comparison to say Facebook, where they're changing the look and the feel. But you want to be in there, I would say at least once a week. Checking contacts, following up, sending emails, things like that, versus going, again, it goes back to the first thing, going when you need something. If you're monitoring it and kind of cultivating, but this is great. I mean, I think this is another great tool that most people don't even realize is that there are recruiters who just so they have their company profile and they post jobs directly within their company profile on LinkedIn. So they already know that they have 1,500 people who are following. We have 1,500 people in Gonzaga. There's thousands of people following Amazon. So what the recruiters are doing is they're saying, you're following us, you might be interested in working here. We're gonna post directly into our company profile. And a lot of times there are names associated to it. So John Smith posted this position, so you can actually connect directly or ask questions directly to the recruiter, which never happens. So I don't know if it's obvious. I am obsessed with LinkedIn. I love it. I could talk about it all day long. I could answer questions about it all day long. The best though is for you to go in and play in it and then when you hit a wall, which you will, to email me, because everyone's situation is different, everyone's profile is different, everyone's network is different, your web. So there's lots of tools in there. And that's kind of my favorite part is you start playing in one section, you start developing one, and then a whole other thing is like, oh wait, I didn't even know I could do that. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So, but take my card, and I mean, 7 minutes, unless you have other major questions.
This is great.
Oh good, I can never tell.
I'm interested in informational interviewing. I mean, I really want to start doing informational interviewing, and so the best way for that is to get information on LinkedIn and just call them or email them.
The best, I mean, there's a couple ways I would do it. If we're building our profile, which it sounds like we are on LinkedIn, if we're developing our network and building our profile, the first thing that I would do is come up with a target of companies and organizations. So maybe 10 to 15, no more than 15, because it's going to become unmanageable. And do some research and see, do they have a company profile on LinkedIn? Do they have a lot of people that are within the organization that are on LinkedIn? And then start seeing who maybe is posting opportunities, and just start kind of doing some research of, so let's say I'm going to make up a regional. So let's say you're really interested in INHS, which is, the regional healthcare, Inland Northwest Health Services. So let's say you're really interested in them. Okay. So you would be able to look on LinkedIn and see if they have a company profile and start seeing how your network over here sits against what they have already on LinkedIn. And then what I would also do is seeing, okay, so who maybe is posting positions? Maybe you can join a group. If there's a common group that a lot of the folks who work there are in, to join that group. Okay. And then, worst case scenario, you make a phone call and say, that's the one that we all don't do. None of us make phone calls anymore. And so when we get a phone call, it kind of makes us all sit at attention, to be really honest. So there's, again, lots of different tools. If I don't want to put too much emphasis on LinkedIn, because it's not the only tool out there. So it's meeting people in person. It's asking for, especially if you're looking at staying regionally, talking to your professors. Asking them for recommendations. I'm looking at staying in Spokane. You know my academic background. You know my academic credential. I'm looking at these 10 organizations. Can you help me? Okay. Typically, until you're asked that specifically, people don't think to help. Okay. Yeah. The other thing that I would recommend for you, the one question that I always tell people to ask in an informational interview, do you know anyone else professionally who can assist me or who I should talk to? Okay. Again, until I'm asked that, I don't think about it. Like that happens to me in student appointments all the time. And my brain doesn't think that. I'm just trying to help and talk to you. And so until you say, is there anyone else that you know who I should talk to, who might be interested to talk to me or interesting, that I can learn from? Until I hear that question, my brain doesn't switch off in that way. Yeah. So start with your faculty, especially if they're here. If you're looking at staying here, Gonzaga is a phenomenal network to start with, right in your backyard. Do you see where I'm going with that? So when you go and take your faculty, like thanking them for coffee, let them know what your plans are. Let them know what your strategy is. Let them know how they can help you. Gonzaga is very big on helping because it's genuine. Right. So do a little research now. Follow up with some coffee. Seriously. You're teed up perfectly in time-wise. Follow up with, thanking them, having coffee with them, and then just saying, this is what my plan is. I'll be in touch with you if you think of anything. Maybe I'll send you my resume. Okay. But if I don't know what people are looking for very specifically, I can't help. Right. And don't be afraid to ask for that.
Okay. So at this point, I'm trying to look for a career change. And I don't know what exactly, I have some idea, this, I have some vague idea about 3 or 4 options. But if I want to know specifically which side to go, what's the best way?
What are you thinking?
So, my background is in telecom engineering. Okay. And my master's in organizational leadership. So, I want to know what could be my options with more degrees combined. Right now, I think one of the clear options for me is going into technical field, completely technical, work my way up and then go towards another field. Right. But other than that, technical field, what else can I go? Maybe HR or I don't know.
Yeah, you could do HR. You could do some communications consulting. That's a great question to ask a faculty member. The reason why I say this, the reason why I put that back on them is they teach in that program. And so for them to be able to take the hybrid of what your professional experience previously, hybrid that and blend it with what you're learning now and saying, what would your recommendation be? That is a phenomenal question to ask a faculty member. I wouldn't say that to not any other institution, but because we're so small, Gonzaga, the faculty members know who you are. Right? So if you sit and have coffee with them and you're saying, my background is in tele, I have this technical ability, but now I have this, I'm thinking maybe consulting, maybe HR, maybe a blend. What do you think? What do you see successful graduates out of your program do? Okay. And just ask them and make it into a conversation, because I can guarantee you, and I'm looking at saying in Spokane. Yes. who would you recommend me in your professional network to talk to? Okay. And then all of a sudden, they're going to be able to say, oh, hey, yeah, I have this one person. Okay. Even if it's one person in a field that you can sit and talk to. Yep. Yeah. That's where I would start if I were you. Okay. Talk to your faculty. Okay. Okay. That's all I've got.
Good job.
Thanks. Thank you.
That was awesome.